we have a spare pen here?
No.
It's that one. Play the infield, not the outfield.
That's right.
Alright, we're on, so Ms. Anna gets back, we'll get fired off.
The objective for the day, Mr. Chairman.
We're gonna be doing the fire special purpose tax district and emergency medical services. After the invocation pledge, wait on Ms. Anderson to get back. Is, Ms. Walsh, is, Mr. Linda here? Okay, I just want to make sure. Awesome. Are you ready, Ms. Anderson? All right. The time is 5:31. I'll call this second budget meeting of Lawrence County Council to order. We'll start with invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Yount, would you lead us in an invocation?
Oh God, we praise you today, you bless us with. And Lord, we ask that you give us wisdom to make every day that you bless us with be a good day, glorify your kingdom. Lord, we ask that you be with us, you help us through the process, help us make wise decisions for this county. And whatever we do, Lord, we do it glorify your name. Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll get started off while Mr. Lindley's on his way in here. We'll do a review of where we are with revenues and expenses. Nothing's really changed. Last week we did the consent budget, as you remember. So the number is still the same where it was. There's really no change. It'll start changing as we address the non-consents and EMS this evening. Y'all remember where we were with capital last week. So we're still pretty sound as we start to do more. These numbers will start to adjust a little bit and we'll keep an eye on as we go. So to start with, we're going to do the fire, which is the one with paperclip fund 123.
He was right behind me.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, sir.
We'll go over the budget. We'll start with 123. Looking at the revenues, we did see an increase in revenues this year, which is good news. Everything else seems to stay the same. The projected on vehicle taxes looks like it might be up a little bit. We're going to stick with that number where we're comfortable. If that's okay with you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's delve hard into it. As you know, with everything, we're holding up on any salary increases until we see where we are with comp study. All that will include your department as well. One item I know we need to discuss is your workers' comp, which is line 26,000. If y'all are reading down the list, is this the new number?
Yes, sir.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the workers' comp rating went from a 0.77 to a 0.92. That was from one or two pretty serious workers' comp claims we had, which was over about $200,000 in what was paid out for workers' comp. Also, in the past 3 years, our payroll has also went up. So with those two factors, we're seeing a substantial, what we've been paying is around $117,000. We're looking for it to go up to about 183,000, about a 55% increase. I have reached out to another workers' comp carrier to just get some estimates on if we can get a better rate than someone else.
How confident do you feel in that?
I have not got an official email back yet, but I was told this afternoon that it would be a good bit less than what we've got here, but I don't have a number to give.
We probably need to leave that in for now, but unless somebody on council has an objection, I suggest you look into anything that can save us money on that angle.
And the workers' comp, remember that the rates of workers' comp is on a 3-year grade, so they go back the last 3 years. And that's how they come up with your premium and what your modifier is. So, but yeah, it's a tremendous increase in that one line.
All right. Working down the list, professional services, like it jumped a little bit from last year.
Yes, sir. That's because we are having to pay a little bit more for our software. When we did the EMT basic life support license, we're required to have another module in that system, and that just is causing an increase.
Okay. I see you requested 40, and it looks like it was knocked back at 35. Is which one of those numbers is more accurate?
35 is doable. It's right where we need to be. The 40 was just giving us a little extra in case it went up a little bit more.
Okay. Talk to us a little about this physician and medical services. What all does that line item cover? I see that, fortunately, I'm guessing what it actually is. We've been fortunate past several years, but the 25,000, is that kind of a necessity there?
The 25,000 pays for two things. It pays for our medical control position, which we have to have in order to operate as a basic life support service. That is an annual fee of about 15,000. EMS pays half, we pay half. And the remaining amount is to pay for OSHA required physicals for the volunteer and paid firefighters.
In 2020, it looks like you only spent $588, and this year, so far, you're at 3,000.
Correct. That's because of COVID-19, and because of COVID-19, because the company we had a COVID exposure, we just did not. We postponed it. OSHA allowed us to postpone this because of COVID-19.
All right, so 25 is where we need to stay there.
Correct.
All right, bill maintenance. I know that's been some contention in the past. Talk to us about those numbers there.
42,000 was what we've got in the budget now. I'd ask to go to 50,000. The 42,000, if you look, find it. Line item on the next page, 61540 janitorial. There used to be money in that line item for janitorial supplies, but to cut down on the number of line items we have in the budget, it was recommended that we put the janitorial supplies and building maintenance in one line item, and that's how we came up with the 42,000. We took the 12,000 that was in janitorial, added to the 30,000, came up with 42,000. I added 8,000 onto that because with us taking over ownership of the building several years ago to do the fire bond repairs, we're constantly having to call someone for electrical issues, bay door problems, roof leaks, that type of thing. And we're going to be probably right at what's budgeted or a little bit over this year just because that's unknown. We just cannot forecast. And I'm asking in the 134 budget for $100,000 for major repairs as well, because we've got stuff, we've got things happening now at these buildings that were not on the fire bond list, but we're going to have to address from roof pleased to cracking concrete pads and so forth. I would like to see that go back to 50,000. I can do it. We can try to make it 42,000, but
The 100 and 134, is that gonna be a new request?
that's gonna be a new
Exactly.
request, yes, sir. We're not asking for any trucks in 134 this year, as far as buying used trucks. We're asking for that to help to fix some additional issues that we're finding in the station. We're finding that a lot of the concrete pads, these stations were built in the 70s, over 50 years ago, but there was not a building code requirement at that time. And a lot of stuff we're having to fix is subpar from years ago. It's not near thick enough concrete, 1-2 inches thick instead of 8 inches thick. And it's just cracking, causing issues.
That's, if you're requesting 100 in the other one, and we leave that 42, that would probably relieve
You can,
some repairs. I'm gonna put that asterisk aside, we might come back to it, you know, the budget's tight, so. Equipment maintenance, I know that's an unknown, it looks like we've been pretty fortunate over the past few years.
and
It looks like you requested double what we did last year, though.
what you will see, and that's what I want to bring to council. In the 43,030 equipment maintenance, I requested 55,200. That is a big difference in what we budgeted, 25,000 in the current budget. The reason is if you go to the next page to or you go to the first page, excuse me, you go down to 56014 Rural Fire District, you will see that they're currently, the rural fire departments and the checks that they receive from the county are getting 111,525. In this budget request, that would go down to 71,125. And the reason in that is I was taking the $32,500 combined that the volunteer departments are getting for equipment maintenance and putting it in our equipment maintenance budget. A lot we've done with vehicle maintenance and building maintenance, and we would just pay for all repairs on their equipment instead of giving them the money to pay for the repairs on their equipment. What we tend to run into is we give them so much money to repair equipment, and then they say they run out of money and the equipment's sitting here not getting repaired. What I would like to do is put it in the county budget, like we do for vehicles and buildings, just let us. If a chainsaw breaks, we send it off to get it fixed. If a air pack breaks, we send it off to get it fixed. We don't have to have them pay for it.
If we're taking over that maintenance, is that something council needs to vote on, or do we just, are we good with all
That
that?
would be in the contracts. Would it not, Greg? Is that already covered in your contracts?
It is, we'd have to just change the contract verb saying that we would, just like we've done with vehicle maintenance, we're assuming responsibility to repair vehicles. We've done the same thing with all these other line items. They used to get the money to repair vehicles, they used to get the money to repair stations, we just pay for that amount out of the county budget.
What's the term on our contracts? Are they annual? They're all
Their
annual.
annual contracts.
When are they up?
They'll be up, they expire June the 30th of this year, they'll start over till July 1.
And those are contracts dealing with our equipment, not vehicles that belong to the station or the volunteer department.
Right.
These would be our trucks, our cars, our air packs.
But we have a contract we have with them now. Technically, what we do is like their, like utility bills and all that, we pay them because
We
one
pay
time
all
we had
of
a
it.
lot of issues with those. So you just gonna add another line.
We're basically taking $32,500 that would have been going to the volunteer fire departments.
Each one.
Each one is, some get 2,000, some get 3,000, but combined it's $32,500 that they get as a combined amount for repairs for equipment. So what I'm asking to do, just like we've done with building maintenance, vehicle maintenance, is we just, instead of giving them that money in their budget, we keep it in the county budget and we just repair that equipment for them versus them having to send it off and get it repaired.
Greg, what do they think about that?
Thing that we cut, right?
It's about a half and half, but they don't complain now about vehicle repairs and station repairs. It's a council decision. It's my recommendation that we just take on paying for equipment repairs.
And that's just our equipment, right? That's,
No, that would be anything that's in the fire station.
I've had multiple conversations with Hickory Tavern especially. They're one of the more vocal volunteer fire departments in the county. They're very opposed to this. But I mean, they like to be more hands-on, I guess, with their equipment.
You know, I think the underlying thing, Greg, and you know, that you and I need to probably sit down and have a conversation about this individually, but that, you know, we're in a march toward removing the local control from the fire departments to the county. Okay, I mean, there's a continuum. And that for the rest of my adult life, I don't hope to be a child again, so I hope that's the rest of my natural life. We're gonna have volunteers, you know, putting out fires in Lawrence County. We've got to figure out a way to manage this whole thing. I mean, that 10 years ago, Greg was telling me that the reason that we pay $200,000 more to operate our own area around the city of Lawrence, because Lawrence just said they didn't want to do business with us, then we paid Clinton to provide the same service, was to have paid people to be able to respond to fires during the day. And I looked up all of those numbers, went out and got all the raw data for Sandy Springs and Joanna, and determined that there's something there, that we've got to have paid people during the day to be able to turn out, because the people that used to be able to turn out in communities like Clinton and Joanna work somewhere that won't let them get off. You know, Clinton Mills would turn them loose, and these were entrepreneurs and small business people. But you know there is a mentality of service among these people, like you want to have them as your next door neighbor, and they want to be both responsible and accountable for the service, not necessarily the money or maintaining, but they want to be responsible for providing the service. And that you know, we've done things like, you know, getting all of the gasoline on one car to be able to get the tax discount. I get all, I understand what you're saying about all that. That you know, the concern that I have is that that we make sure that as a council that we serve the volunteers is really the bottom line. We've got to keep the volunteers integrated into the system where they want to come out, they want to be there, and they want to respond to the call. And that what they tell me is that when you start putting paid people in, and this is a continuum, that's not just the paid people, it's the paid, you know, it's the control over the affairs in the firehouse, and control over the capital budget and everything that they're seeing moving toward the county. And they tell me, and you know, I'm not in a position to tell them they don't feel the way they feel. Okay, they tell me that they don't like that. That's what they tell me.
so my only concern would be if we're if we're the county putting equipment in those stations and it's not getting maintained with the money we're giving them, I do have a problem with that. I do agree that volunteers are a vital part of our.
Well, and I'm not suggesting at all that some may see this as we're taking money from the volunteers. What we are doing is when I came here in 2009, we had our own mechanic, paid mechanic, Jimmy Gray. The volunteer fire departments got a lot more physical money from the county than what they do now. No doubt. They got money to pay their own utilities. They got money to do their own equipment repairs. They got money to fix their vehicles. But to me, the process had a lot of faults. They were given money to test ladders, test air packs, test cascades, make sure cascades were going. those things, when I came here, were not getting done. Ladders not being tested, air packs not being tested, flow tested. So what we've done is not try to hurt the volunteers. I've been a volunteer since 1991. I still am a 30-year volunteer. I'm not suggesting that I'm trying to take anything away from them. I'm trying to support them more than what we have in the past. From the standpoint is that they know their ladder is going to get tested annually. We're going to pay for that. The cascade is going to be serviced annually. We're going to pay for that. Their air pack's going to be flow tested. We're paying for that. We're making sure those things that are required by OSHA and DHEC and different agencies in NFPA are getting done. And I feel like that's the county's responsibility that we make sure those things get done. Whether that department's given money by the county to do those things, or we keep the money instead of giving it to them, and we make sure we pay to get those things done. Either way, it needs to get done. Vehicle maintenance is the same way. Nobody has to worry about how we're gonna pay to fix this fire truck. We're gonna pay to fix the fire truck. If it's fixable, it needs to be fixed. We pay to fix it. It comes out of if you look at our budget, we are way over in vehicle maintenance. Imagine if we gave that money to the volunteer fire departments and then they run out of money. They'd be coming to us asking, how we gonna fix this truck? You're gonna give us $5,000, it's gonna cost $10,000. So we done away with all those worries. We just soon taking on fixing trucks and all I'm trying to say is, and we don't have to do this, we can let them keep the money, but I get asked all the time, well, why will you not pay to fix this for me, but you'll pay to fix this for me? I'm just trying to fix that part of it and say, look, we'll just fix all the equipment. Something breaks, air packs. I've got one department right now that's got several air packs sitting in the floor. They say they don't have the money to fix. We do this. We had the money and equipment maintenance to fix those air packs. We'll send them off and get them fixed. If council wishes to let the volunteers keep the fund, we can put it right back in the rural fire fund, but they understand that it will stay like it is, that they are responsible to repair the equipment. And, it's not budgeted in the county budget to pay for that.
Why would the volunteers want to trouble themselves? You got one
That's my
man that
question.
just kind of watches over all these repairs?
Yep.
Well, that sounds like an efficient way to do it, instead of each little house.
Well, we used to give the fire departments money to buy their own equipment when I came here. And when I first came here, I had worked with 4 different types of air packs that didn't interchange. Different hose, different nozzles, different fans, and you name it. We've now started since about eight years ago. We don't give them the money to buy firefighting equipment. We buy it in bulk. We go out and do one big purchase a year. We've saved a lot of money in buying standard air packs, standard hose, nozzles. So that's just what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to allow the volunteers to be volunteers and to run the calls and run their stations and not have to worry about where they're gonna get money paid for stuff. But that's a council decision.
I guess my question is, if we budget this way and then we don't change it in the contract, will that money revert, Lisa, or will we have to vote on the budget?
I would think as long as the bottom line of the budget didn't change, you can
Yes,
move
it is.
anything around
Yes,
in
it
there.
took responsibility for fixing it. I don't think it would. But I think that needs to be clear in the contract. And the equipment that we're gonna maintain that belongs to them should be inventory and just attached to the contract. I mean, that's the simple way to do it. That way you know what you're supposed to be maintaining that belongs to them.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna support this change for all of the good reasons that Greg suggested. I think that this falls into a category very much like why we've broken out the capital budget. These are just singularly large expenses for the size of operation of an individual operation, and they may have $2,000 expense one year and $10,000 the next, and $5,000 each year doesn't really help that. And my overall observations notwithstanding and still valid, I think that this is a good idea.
All right, there's no.
Is there any equipment that would be left out? I mean, what are we talking about when we say equipment?
When I talk about equipment, I'm talking about everything. If they call up and say, my TFT nozzle broke, I need a handle for the nozzle, that's a piece of equipment. If they call and say the cascade at the station is not working, instead of them having to call Safe Air Systems and get a bill for $700, they're gonna send me the bill and they're gonna pay for the repair of the cascade. But if we do this, there's a possibility that we can work out some service agreements and contracts to cut some costs to where we're not paying as much for a service to come out and fix something if we do it as a global. But we're talking about chainsaws, we're talking about generators, lawnmowers, anything that's equipment, anything that's a hand tool, that they have to call someone, and it may still be that a fire department like Hickory Tavern may have somebody that they like to send a chainsaw to. And as long as we can put them as a vendor for the county and all, I don't mind them, hey, take it to your guy here and tell him to send me the bill and I'll pay for it.
Luke, what was the concern? They, Hickory Tavern is, I mean, you know, they're very prideful about what they do in our community, and they look at this as taking away some of their responsibilities, and they take pride in what they do. They take pride in all the smallest nitty gritty responsibilities day to day, and I can understand from their side of things. I can understand what you're saying too. I mean, I'm a guy that looks at efficiency, and I want things to run as efficiently as possible. But I think they like the ability to do what they want to do without having to go to the county. And they just like to kind of operate, I guess, in a way on an island. I mean, you know,
Well, and I fully respect that. I came from that. I'm still a volunteer at my home department, and we're the same way. But from the same standpoint, from where I'm at with what I do, I'm trying to make the money go as far as I can, and I want to support. I guess in my eyes, I'm trying to support the volunteer fire department by saying, hey, let us take the burden on of paying for this stuff. Let us help you, but to, you know.
Was there a discussion at the chief's meeting to get a consensus and they all agreed to do it, or was this something we kind of decided as the county fire department to thrust upon?
We have talked, I have talked to some of them. We have not had a vote about this. I mean, we.
I would feel better.
I would feel better too.
Yeah.
Because Grand Court Fire Department is very similar to Hickory Tavern in the way that they like controlling, want to do a thing for the community. They're in the community, take care of the community, kind of pride, and don't want to do something. If we can explain it and it makes sense, and there was an agreement between the two that something breaks, it will get fixed. It's not going to be Mother May I kind of thing. And they said, well, that's okay if it's explained, but I don't want to. I haven't had that conversation with the fire departments in my district. I wanted to make sure before I said yes that they tell me why, yes or no, if that's okay.
This whole larger question of, you know, how the rural fire departments are going to have life, you know, for the next 20 years, next 50 years, but certainly for the next 20, is going to be very significant. And Chief Plaxico from Joanna, cousin Robert, has invited me to meet with some of his friends that are in fire coordinator positions in Florence County and others. And so let's go do the road trip, dude. I mean, let's go visit them and try to, in my mind, formulate what we have to do to motivate young people to be volunteers. You know, how do we enable them? How do we encourage them? What's the essence of it all? And that we need to be mindful of this. We need to be mindful of service. That when Benjamin Franklin and those guys were putting Philadelphia together, the first thing they did was have a fire department. I mean, it's the basic service that we provide.
Great. So would council more comfortable if we move that money back to line item 5614 for the time being until we make the
I mean,
determination?
the money's still gonna be allotted for that function, it just gives them control. You might have some fire departments, Greg, that say, you know what,
And it may be a way to go. Hey, you know, if A, B, and C say, y'all take care of it, then we get them to sign the document saying, hey, you know, we're gonna take care of it. You're not gonna get funds,
We can individualize the contract.
you know.
You're not moving those monies around later.
We all need to be on the same page as far as buying equipment. For that department, you know.
Too individualized and we're gonna regret it.
well, I think we can come together and get a consensus.
Like I said, this is not
They're not irrational.
yeah, this was not an attempt to try to take anything. I was just trying to
And I understand.
pay, but, you know, yeah.
I understand that too. I just want to make sure that if, how we do it, we can explain it in a way, and if they're on board with it, then. But I've had fire departments be proactive about it, reach out to me, knowing that this was gonna come up and shared with me their concerns, and I value that very much.
Well, let's, everybody's comfortable with it, let's leave it as it sits, and I'll just ask between now and June 30th, that our last meeting in June, that we determine who's gonna do what and how it's gonna be handled, and adjust that the fire contract, and we can go back and revisit those two line items and tune them up and down where we need to. All right, moving on down, vehicle maintenance, I have a question. We got 43,090, and on the next page we have 61,900. What is the difference between those two
Well,
lines?
Lisa can help you, well, I can explain it, Lisa, but the 4309 is if we have to send a truck to a vendor like Freightliner, or it's not our mechanic, it's not buying the parts and doing the work, it's going, that's outsourced to someone, that 40,000 pays for that.
Okay.
The other, line item of vehicle maintenance is when he goes to Napa, goes and buys parts, and he is doing the repair, changing oil, we're buying tires for fire trucks, that kind of thing, that's where that comes from.
And you'll find this in all departments, and they're broken out separately for two reasons. We have to account for all outside service for both workers' comp and for 1099 purposes. And then supplies needs to be separated so that we can justify whether or not we would owe any use tax or sales tax that hadn't been paid. So that's the reason those two items are broken out separate.
We'll leave the copy release like it is this year, Greg, but I know we just signed new leases, which should bring that number down.
Correct.
It's not enough to make a difference, but let's get that more accurate on the next go around. Insurance vehicle tort, I know some, Greg, or not Greg, I'm so sorry, Billy was telling us, we were talking about a 20% increase, but here you only have a fraction of it.
Fraction, it's about 9%, very low compared to our losses that we've had, so I'm happy with the 165.
Okay, what caused ours to stay?
Different company.
Okay. So they're cutting us a deal, I guess. We'll take it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Cell phones look the same, telephones, what's caused that line item to drastically decrease over the last couple of years?
The telephone, we're working with that with Joey when the telephone, new telephone was put in. I believe some of the bills have been paid out of the 911 budget, not out of the fire budget. So we're trying to rectify that. But when they put the phones, new phones in, we're not getting a monthly bill while we work.
All right, I see we have the new radio fee in here. This is gonna cost us another 130,000.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, but that's what the fees are if we're going to have the radio.
And that number's accurate.
Yes.
Next one is a big one. The Clinton fire contract. I know Dale informed me of, Dale can be here this evening. He regrets that he couldn't join us. Do you have anything to report, Greg, on the Clinton Fire contract before I go?
I have not had any, conversations with Clinton. I had put the 298, 343 was what was in the, current budget. I know they're gonna ask for the increase, but I have not
Okay.
had any contact with
So their request is 3% over last year. Is their request, which put us at 307,293. It's about 89.50 is the increase. It's a change. They also requested if we would consider an apparatus, they would be interested in housing one of our tanker trucks to have use for when they have to run fires outside the city. Most of their trucks, from what I understand, are pumpers.
Yeah, they don't have any tankers.
Yeah, so they,
Yeah.
which in the city ain't a problem because there's fire hydrants everywhere. But when they have to come fight a fire out by the hospital, there might not be a fire hydrant within hose reach. So they have made that request, which I think we should consider at some point. If we have an older, I'm not saying we need to buy a new truck. but
We don't have, currently, we don't have any, we had talked about this a while back, we currently don't have any old tankers that are just sitting around, they're all in service. We got to keep a certain number of ISO to haul water.
So what I would request, I know we traded some in on this last round. My request, I think, would be next time we look at buying a new truck somewhere, maybe we hold on to one if we could repurpose it in the county, because they are fighting fires. I know we're paying them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it comes down to getting water from A to B, get water to our residents, I think it's important that we accommodate. So I ask that we.
Mr. Chairman, I want to point out to you that the people that are inside the city, they're in the county too.
Absolutely. But they have fire hydrant that was 100 feet of their
I
house.
paid for the fire hydrant.
They did, but all of our residents, I recognize they're in the county, but when I, outside city residents, unincorporated residents, how about that? But getting water, so we need to be cognizant as we look at our fleet, that there's an opportunity to station one there. And then I'm not saying we give one up, so we gotta have them for ISO, and they're sitting in a barn, sitting there. I'm not opposed to us letting it sit in Clinton either. I don't know what our fleet looks like. I'm not saying we have one that's just not being utilized, but if we have one that's not being readily utilized, we can keep it in our fleet, do an MOU. I would ask them to consider that.
So we can look at that. We don't have anything that's, we don't have anything that's just said.
Where are they? How many tankers do you have?
We have
19 tankers.
19 tankers.
And the area that Clinton serves does not have one? That's a big area. That's probably.
Now Clinton does not, Clinton
10% of the county.
not have a tanker. However, the Mount Hill station that's on Milam Road, right there, Milam Road 672 does have a new pumper tanker. That's 2,000 gallon tanker. It's in that station. Joanna has 2 tankers, 2,000 gallons. So they can roll 4,000 gallons. Sandy Springs has a 2,000 gallon tanker and a new 2,000 gallon pumper tanker. So there are about 6 to 7 county tankers that are right outside the city at the volunteer departments that Clinton does call as backup to come fight the fire in the county.
They have any paid people in those places
Uh,
to respond during the day?
I have a floating paid person that floats between Joanna, Reno, and Sandy Springs, but he's there 10, 11 hours a day.
It's not good for them.
But we just keep, if we determine that we have one that could be utilized, but then you're
There's a
right,
gap there.
they cover 72 square miles, which is 10% of our county. That's your question. Clinton Fire District is 72 square miles. And our county is what, 724. So
But even in those outlying areas, you know, that one of the things I referred to, the statistical study I did when I was at Clemson 10 years ago, is that and looked at Joanna. If it hadn't been for Robert Foxco and his daughter, it wouldn't have been anybody going to some of the fires during the day. And so the point I'm getting at is that all of those tankers that Greg mentioned they're physically located there, but there's no paid person that's available during the day to go get it and bring it to somebody. And that you know, that's sort of I don't know, I mean, the ISO can make the ratings the way they want to, but when you have to drive from Joanna all the way out to the interstate to get to that truck, what good is it? You could drive a truck from Joanna out there. But that's the ISO, that's why we do these things, it's for the ISO ratings. I'm just saying that having a truck in the center of that, when we have 19 of them, and it's 10% of the thing, we've got 19 of them, it should be there.
Thank you, Mr. Trill. To discuss the dollar figure, because the numbers that are in here aren't, I'll be honest, I'm not sure how they were calculated to begin with. How do we feel about the 3% request they're asking for?
We have, what was the last time we gave them one? It was
We gave them 1.5 last time.
I think the last 2 years y'all done, CPI. I think last year was 1.5, and then year before that, maybe about 2%, Sandy, I'm not 100%, but I believe it's CPI.
I don't want to jump the gun on this, Mr. Chairman, but what's the scoop on the Fountain Inn Fire District down here? Why are there so many blanks? After that, are they opting out?
They did a while back, back in 2018, Greg gave you more history than I can on that one.
Yeah, we don't pay Fountain Inn anymore.
They opted out of.
Well, we had to build a station outside of Fountain Inn because it was class 10 where all the construction was going on.
Right.
And when we built the station, we just took Fountain Inn, they didn't have resources to keep coming out. So we took that area over and we now have a paid station on Thompson Road that covers that area. And that pay station also backs up on.
So what you're saying is that if at some point the city of Clinton does what the city of Lawrence has done and the city of Fountain Inn has done, they've talked about doing it before, saying it's not even marginally profitable for us to do this. And so here it is, take it. And so what you're going to have to do is you got to come in and spend more money than that to put paid people down there. And that the people of the city of Clinton deserve better treatment than that, frankly. And they have deserved it for a long time. It costs $200,000 more to serve the area around Lawrence than the city of Clinton serves around its area, which is roughly equivalent to that. $200,000 more. And you're talking about 3%? Give them what they asked for.
So that's what they asked for.
Give them what they asked for.
Is that a motion, Mr. Krill?
It is.
I have a motion from Mr. Krill to increase the Clinton Fire contract line items to 307-293-29. Is there a second?
I'll give you a second.
Second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any other discussion on that one?
I think we need to look at the CPI. I don't like to do things just because they ask. But, because we've been getting a service from them. And I think sometimes you have to look at how many calls you get every now and then too. And this is put into their budget for them to help out the county. And I think if we look at the CPI, I think that means that we covered everything that needs to be covered. So I don't know what it is right now. Do you know what it is?
Do we have a CPI for this year?
1.23.
1.23, 1.23.
I would just like to go along with the CPI.
All right.
I think if you looked at the number of calls that you would find it compares quite favorably in support of the request for the full amount.
All right, thank you for that, Ms. Anderson and Mr. Krill. Is there any other discussion? All right, you've heard the recommendations by the council members. There's a motion on the table to go to 307-293-29. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? That's 4-3. McDaniel, Yance, and Anderson in opposition. All right.
And so the motion passed.
Passed, yes, sir. Thank you. Motion passes. We just discussed a while ago where we are on the rural fire district. I assume the only difference, Greg, was the money we talked about, and we're gonna adjust that at a later date when we determine who's gonna be in the contract, who it.
Oh, on the rural fire
Yeah,
district,
any other changes besides that?
no, we're gonna keep it as is until y'all make a decision.
Just for knowledge for all of us in here now, tell me what all that line item goes to pay for, besides the service contract on the equipment we've already discussed. What else does it cover?
On the equipment maintenance,
note on the rural fire district?
Rural fire district, that pays for, let me get that. Sorry, I got a list. What the rural fire departments get is they get money for, out of that $71,000 or the 111, they get money for advertising, printing supplies. They get money for postage, books and publications, dues and subscriptions, travel and meetings, some maintenance contract money, repairs to equipment if it stays, first responder supplies, a little bit of money for training, audit and bank charges, and other, which is not specified, $2,000 that we give them if something comes up during a year, and
Contingency, basically.
it's just contingency for it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. See, you requested an increase in your membership dues.
That's just because we took the Waterloo and Ecom departments under the county, so we had to pay for extra dues for those.
All right, training, I'm glad to see this line item here. I know it's been low this year because of COVID.
Correct.
I hope we'll utilize that and get our boys with the training they need. Travel seems normal there.
Travel's been down, so.
Right. All right, building supplies, did you put that in a different line item?
Building supplies is just gonna come out of the building maintenance line item.
All right, computer supplies, that looks,
That
5,000.
was- That's, I think 2 of the volunteer departments asking for laptops, and I've got to buy a laptop or 2 for some paid staff members, so that's what that's for.
Fire prevention supplies, it's going up 2,000, I assume with price increases.
That's price increases, and also we did have the National Fire Safety Council that gave us some free material, but we don't do that anymore of them, so we're having to budget a little bit more for the schools.
All right. Office supplies, looks on par from what you've been spending the past few years. Postage, I know that one probably goes up and down.
That's just going up due to postage increases and things, we just increased some.
All right, uniforms, your request increased 3,000, but you've actually been over the past 2 years, it looks like.
Correct, that's just because of, when you lose people and you have to hire somebody else, you gotta get them.
But You're good at 15 though.
Yes, 15 would be 45.
All right, now another big one.
Vehicle maintenance, we're way over. It's been a terrible year for us. So we're asking for us about a $15,000 increase in vehicle maintenance to take it to $80,000.
What do you see as causing that? We just purchased a bunch of brand new trucks, our maintenance.
The brand new trucks we purchased in 2011, they all require the DEF.
I thought we just bought 10 trucks last year.
We did, but we
Okay.
bought some, it's on a 10-year, so we bought 10 in 2011, and then that lease got paid off, and then we started another one for the new truck we just bought. But anything you buy from 2010 forward comes with DEF tanks.
Right.
And when those particulate filters get stopped up on those trucks, it's $8,000 to send it up the road to get it fixed. And we've had quite, cause these trucks, the DEF filters are fine as long as the truck is ran continuously a lot. The fire trucks sit a lot, they run for short stints of time, and it causes these.
So I deal with this in equipment and with trucks all the time, and the newer stuff have systems on it, and even on the tractor,
Regens.
it'll regen. Can we not manually regen these trucks to keep them from?
You
doing
can
this?
manually regen these trucks, and we do tell them to do that. But occasionally we have the Dodge 5500s, we have the Ford 550s.
With those trucks have it, they should automatic, shouldn't they?
It's automatic on all of them, but for whatever reason, on the Kenworth chassis, we're having a lot of, issues with different filters that clog up. And if we have any other, we just had a lot of major issues. We've had a lot of tires this past year. We've had to replace tires. A lot of our tires are reaching the DOT 10-year mark, and we have to replace those. And it's just been a really tough year of vehicle maintenance.
Council comments on that line item, we're comfortable with 80. That's what the question been recommended. Anybody want to adjust that in any direction?
I'm just glad to stay that way. If you need to come back to council with something that you can come back, as long as they have the money to help them out on it. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Just been a bad year, huh?
It's just we've had,
Next year may not be so.
it may not be so bad, but it's hard to gauge.
65.
No. Okay. All right, moving on down. Fuel. You did 50 this in 2021, you request 45, and then was recommended at 40.
I would say we probably need to put that back at 50 for right now with the rise in fuel prices. At the time I did the budget in January, they were not as high, but I don't know if we'll stay within 40 if the price of fuel doesn't drop.
Is this accurate? Through 8 months, you only spent 19 then?
Well, you take the 19 and then you take the real fire. We put the 4 out of 1, but they got split out here. But if you take the 1972 and the 23 119, add those together.
Oh, I see. We just started splitting.
Yeah.
No way we're gonna be able to meet that lower budget this coming year when we put $2 trillion into the economy. The first thing you're gonna see is inflation in gasoline.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I would probably recommend, and I hate to do this, I'd probably recommend 55,000. I don't know where the gas price is gonna go right now.
Anything less than that.
I'll take a motion to adjust that line item.
Move to change to 55, Mr. Chairman.
All right, 61, 910 is the line I'm looking at.
Second.
Have a motion, Mr. Tribble, second, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Anderson, to change that to 55,000. Any other comments, questions? Here, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of adjusting line item 611910 to 55,000, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right. Rural utilities.
It goes up and down. We can have a good year, a bad year. We have put in some setback thermostats in the stations. I was hoping that was going to help cut the utility costs. But we're projecting 180. I don't think we're going to make it to 180, 297. But I think it's going to be over the 120 that we, or it's going to be over the 148 we got budget. So I thought we probably need to take at least 156.
I'm comfortable with that. Next line, books of publication seems normal.
We
Machines.
just increased it.
Yeah.
850
850.
some cost increases for some books and things we need.
Machines, equipment. You feel comfortable with 15?
15,
Been right there for the past
same.
several years.
Yeah, so we're not.
That next line, 74,200. Did that move somewhere else?
We're just not requesting any vehicle apparatus in this budget.
Okay. Office furniture, $3,000. Is that to replace? Is that to put in these new stations as we go?
We've got a couple of stations that need some desk and furnishing and stuff. So that was just I kept that. I cut it by 2,000, but I wanted to leave some in case we need to buy stuff.
All right. Firefighting equipment at 265. That seems in part what you've been spending the past few years.
And that 265 covers the firefighting equipment, covers turnout gear for all the fire departments, and money for the swim water rescue teams. That's what that.
Does that include, do we have the volunteers, I assume?
Yes.
That includes all
yes.
that? Okay. All right, audit and bank charges, I guess they are what they are.
I upped it just a little bit because we're spending actual at 55, 65, so I just put 5,000. I think it's probably gonna be under 5,000, but,
Continuing with your 12,000 in contingency. That seems to be normal for the past several years. Tax rebates to volunteers, what, just for knowledge purposes, can you tell me what that's about?
that is a $100, tax deduction rebate that the volunteers that live in Lawrence County that volunteer, and they make a certain number of calls and training and all that. Their fire chief can fill a form out, they bring it to us. We give them $100 tax voucher. And when they go pay their vehicle taxes, if the car tax is at $200, they only pay $100.
Okay.
So it's a little incentive for the volunteers.
All right. That brings into that, I believe there, is there anything else below that we need to discuss? Sure. All right, well, that puts your grant.
One
Oh,
question.
sure.
I'm sorry when we were talking about, but, in reference to the insurance, you know, self-insurance you have with the Association of Counties.
The workers' comp, yes, ma'am.
And someone that we thought was gonna give you, no, that's all right, okay.
I'm just asking for other prices, just to see. I just think we need to do such a increase.
All right. Um, 153, I know we talked earlier about the lease purchase, that 153 number is good, Greg.
Lisa, I'll let you help me, the 153,000 that was in the 123 O&M budget. What we have done the past couple of years is we took every year when the lease payment came in, the lease payment was about $400,000. We would transfer the 153,000 from the 123 account into the 134 account, because the 134 account by itself with 1.9 mil does not have enough coming in to pay the lease payment of $400,000. So if you take the 153 that was budgeted in the O&M and you transfer it into the 134 account, that's where we came up with the money to pay the lease payments.
So looking at your budget, and this has new numbers, if everyone look at the screen. Or you're due to the, everybody remember we changed the feelers around a little bit this year. With the change of that, with the increase in the millage, in theory, you've spent every dime that's been allocated to you, you'd be running a $479,000 deficit. You know, historically, you've actually been doing really well at running surpluses.
Correct.
I guess my question to council is, do we feel comfortable at this deficit is showing that we're going to continue to run these surpluses? Like 2020, this is, I know you can't see the years, but 2020 we ran a surplus of 434,000. Year before that was 130. Year before that was 723,000. So I'm comfortable with what we're showing, given that your fund balance is so large. You do have a very healthy fund balance. We appreciate you keeping it that way. My question is, do we feel comfortable budgeting for budgeting in that deficit?
How much is the deficit currently put on that one, Mr. Chairman?
That, like today, or what we're budgeting for next year?
What we're budgeting for the coming year, you're
Yeah.
saying that.
That's it right there. The yellow.
So what is the fund balance?
It's this big black line item down here. So right now, we're only 8 months in, but their fund balance today is 2.85 million.
And so tell me how we've gone from with this budget, how we've gone from a surplus to a deficit that's a delta of about 800,000, right? Is that what you're telling me? What is the surplus we're running this year
Yes.
versus the deficit we're projecting?
So this is
for
only
next
8 years in. I mean, 8 months in.
The surplus you're seeing is with the FELO money that the special purpose tax district
So
has.
here's
has
your
collected.
revenues.
So you're taking the 750,000 FEMA money out, is what you do.
We load it out and put it in the general fund. So what we have a couple options. Like I said, Greg does really well with his budget. I'll give him props for that. And we've continued to run some hefty surpluses, you can see here and here, which has increased the fund balance to go up.
But what you're saying is, are we comfortable in transferring TILO money in to cover that? Is that what
We can, do we want to
that's what
cover
we've
it?
done every year in the past? Is that,
It was just there in the past.
was there every year? or-
Yes, it was always there. So we can determine to transfer that in if we want to cover that. Or we can wait till the end of the year and let Greg come back and say, hey, I'm 200,000 short. I don't, and my thing is, if we, and I appreciate y'all's, y'all being very frugal, Greg. But I don't want to give you $500,000 when you only might need 200. That's where I sit. And that's just my personal opinion. I'd be okay doing it, but at the end of the day, if you only needed 2 and we're taking 5 from somewhere else, that's not fair to the other departments and everybody and all the other ones. Just my opinion. I have no problem making up the difference next June. But I don't want to give you, like I said, or I don't want to give you 5 and you can spend 5 either if you only.
I
need
just
2.
don't wanna, because the 2.8 million, we gotta keep our 25%.
And that's gonna come back.
It's
I mean, you still
about-
got you got another quarter of expenditures from all that too.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, I mean, all the revenues here, I mean, taxes, home tax has been paid, you're not gonna see much more. So that will decrease, hopefully not all 800,000, but I expect that to decrease.
I just don't wanna put us in a annual deficit and then we get into where we're staying in the red and the next thing you know, we don't have
I mean, you're still at a 50% fund balance, even with that deficit budget in. I mean, even if it all works out just right, and you're at 1.5 million at the end of next year on a $3.3 million budget, and you're still at 50% fund balance, which is still considered strong, in my opinion. What I would just request is next year you come back to us and say, hey, we were behind $200,000 and we'd like to transfer that out of the general fund. That's what I would.
I don't have a problem, I just don't want.
I'll make a commitment to you, and I'll leave you high and dry.
Yeah, I just don't wanna get,
I'm 1-7
I
votes.
just don't wanna be upside down, we never have, I just don't want.
No.
to do that.
And with the fund balances you're running, I truly hope we will get there. Like I said, I do appreciate y'all's frugalness. It's appreciated.
I'm curious, what could this horrible thing, what horribly could happen that you blow your budget out?
A truck, a truck, something happens to a fire truck, we gotta replace it mid-year. You know,
He told us.
you know,
I mean, you got COVID going around for a whole year. It's not hard to imagine terrible things anymore.
Yeah, but how much millage go for the fire department?
140,000 a meal,
It's 18.1 mils,
18.1 meals, but 140,000 is the value of the meal.
which is where the.
In the rural areas, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
You got a total 20 mils out.
Huh?
Got 1.9 capital.
Yeah, well, yeah, so 1.8 there and then 1.9 here, so there's 2 different. It's 20.
18.1 in the 123, the operating budget, and it's 1.9 in the reserve 134. But
If you remember, Ms. Anderson, we combined,
That's what
we
I'm
took the two mills that was set aside for reserve
Mhm.
and put that in, so that's part of the 18.1. And we split out the 1.9 as capital, right? Basically, we did that, what, 4 years ago?
I'm trying to figure out what.
Yeah, it used to be
I
six-
thought one time we had.
Used to
We
be
used to have
16.
millage for the fire department and for the coordinator's office and
Yeah.
for the fire capital reserve. We
16,
combined the department and the coordinator's office together millage wise. The 1.9 is mainly for capital type items.
And I remember,
So we're gonna use 1.40. Which, that's,
you know, the
That's-
administration had
that's
a
going
fire
in.
budget of its own. And then it had that.
right, we combined,
And so you combine those.
Right, we took,
yeah, but the shoot low.
All right.
we took the Lawrence County Fire Department budget, which was for the fire department around the Donut of Lawrence. We took that budget, we took the fire general budget, and we took the fire coordinator budget and made it one budget. Just to kind of
I knew
simplify
the money.
the money.
I remember us doing that, but I still said they wondered about that feeling over there, wondering about it. I don't know. We leave it like it is for a while. I know, you,
Leave what like it is.
his balance without having it some transferred out of it.
You talking about not moving any FILO money at this time? Yeah, you can do
Well, we've already voted to do it. We have to put it back.
We voted to do
that. I
it.
think she's saying to keep it out.
No, you're asking to leave it in, aren't you?
I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you
Yeah.
were talking about
So
leaving.
we
No, what we
voted,
would
Leaving his
do is
budget
make an
as is.
appropriation, a one-time appropriation for that. That's, like I said, which that's why I would prefer to wait to do it at the end of the budget cycle, so we know exactly how much we need instead of using an arbitrary number.
To make you run even, not
Yeah,
a
well, zero
surplus and not a deficit, you be balanced.
Because yeah, if we did it now and it was still in there, he'd have a surplus of $270,000 that could be used for pay raises for another department.
I think that's probably the responsible thing to do. It's just that, 3/4 to 9/10 of my life in public life, there wasn't anybody at the end of the year, and 2001 and 2008, and several times during the 90s, things were just terrible, in terms of revenue and our ability to meet our needs and so forth. And so I think what you're saying is we're gonna probably have to do it relative to what our needs are gonna be when the employment numbers come in. We'll have to do it, so we might as well just admit that now.
All right, well, if everybody wants to glance back over this one more time, if anybody has any changes or recommendations they wish to make a motion on. If not, I would gladly accept the motion to approve Fund 123 for the Fire Special Purpose Tax District.
Move to
As
approve.
discussed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Triple, second by Mr. Rankin. Is there any further discussion on any items? Here none, I'll call for the vote for approval of Fund 123 Fire Special Purpose Tax District. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed,
I'm not opposed,
abstain.
yeah, I'm abstaining.
All right,
We have
votes.
some problems there with making sure the fund that expended for fire is all in the fire budget.
So the motion passes to approve Fire District Fund 123, 6 to 0 to 1, Ms. Anderson and abstention. All right, next we'll look at the Fire Capital, Rural Capital Fund. The revenue's been adjusted for the millage that was given to us this morning by the auditor. You can see down there. Greg, I'll let you explain the budget items you're requesting in the capital this year.
And I'm gonna ask Lisa to help with the 134. We talked this afternoon. You're not gonna see any apparatus in there. You are gonna see under fire bond projects of $350,000. That is the money that we requested a while back from council to finish the fire bond projects that we have started, that we're still working on. We were gonna run out of the fire bond funds. We were not gonna be able to finish those without some additional funding. And we took that funding from the 134, and that's what you see there. The building repairs, 15,702, $100,000.
I'm not looking at what you're looking at.
Oh, we're here. It's a single page. It was paper clipped to the first one.
Okay.
It should be at the very back of that.
It should be at the second expenses at the middle page.
Top left hand corner says 134 on it.
The building repairs, that's $100,000. I I did not get estimates, I just put that in there. This is on top of the $350,000 to finish the fire bond project repairs of these buildings. That's an additional $100,000 because we currently have fire departments. I've got a couple that I'm gonna bring to council in the next little bit that we've got to do some concrete repairs at. We're just continually, as we have taken these buildings, ownership of the buildings to do the repairs, we are continually having to look at parking lots and concrete roof leaks, and the 42,000 that we've got budgeted in the O&M budget is just not enough. We can take one parking lot repair, one concrete repair, and we've eaten the whole budget up. So this is $100,000 for major repairs coming forward for this year. And then the $40,000 for security cameras. Some of our departments already have security cameras in them. But as council knows, we had a Great Court fire truck that somebody broke into the station, stole the truck, it ended up being up in the mountains. We got it back. But I was looking at, we don't have to do security cameras, but I was looking at security, some type of increased security for these fire departments to have cameras, not in, certain areas, but really in the bays, exit, entrance doors. So we have somebody that breaks in, we have some way to know who it is.
Do they lock them? I mean, a lot of.
They
the
lock
cars
them.
Are not locked, are they?
Well, they all have locks on them. One thing that we can do that's cheaper than $40,000, we put some plates on some of the doors. Some of the doors are harder to put plates on. But a metal building, it's very easy to take a knife or something and get into if there's not a plate there to keep you from getting in and opening the door. So, we can do better with security. The truck was in the station was locked. The guy broke in a back door, got in and got the truck, what he did. But the $40,000 was something that Mr. Kane had asked me to put something in there for security. And I put in there to install security cameras. Now, like I said, we don't have to do cameras, we can do better locks. There's things we can do to improve it, but I think we need to do something for the value of the equipment that we've got. We've got 106 fire trucks in our fleet. We operate 37 different fire station buildings. I mean, we do have a lot of equipment.
Do any of the fire stations have burglar alarms?
They don't really have burglar alarms. Some of them, and a lot of the volunteer departments have used their own money and bought security camera systems. Hickory Tavern has them already, and we can let them do that if that's what we want them to do. But I was just trying to find something that we could improve security of these facilities if somebody was to break in and try to steal something. And I will tell you, in the current budget we're in now, if you look under FYI 2021 budget, we have budgeted $80,000 for some 800 radios, and we're not going to have to spend that this year's budget because of the one for the sales tax. So council would like me to look at some of that funding now and get some pricing on cameras. I could pay for some of that, or building repairs out of that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if this isn't like a general fund, this keeps a rolling balance. This is a special account.
Now, this account has come, the balance in this account has came way down because we've got more expenses going out than we've got revenue coming in.
I was gonna ask you about that. With it being a self-contained fund, where are these deficits being covered?
Lisa, that will be because that's the question I had earlier for you with
The discussion with Mr. Kamey at the time was that they would move the money from 123 to 134. They would use the fund balance reserves that was in 123.
But it looks, if these numbers are accurate, you entered this year.
Are we still looking at some funding to come in on the lease? We've spent more than we've actually received in lease
These
proceeds.
numbers are wrong, by the way. These formulas aren't right. So this is actually better than it looks.
I hope so. We'd be 1.1 million in the red, and we only have 1.5 in the black on the other side. We'd be bankrupt. One more year.
Well, and the question I had, and this might be a question for Lisa, and I didn't see it on the 123 budget, but, if you look at the top, revenues for the 134 account, you see the, real property, 266, delinquent 12,000, 44,000 the vehicle comes to a revenue of 322. Your lease payment on the fire trucks is 403,000.
How many more payments on the fire bond project do we have?
Fire bond is probably about halfway.
I say 4 years,
Okay.
5 years. something.
Probably got 4 years left on payments after this year, yeah.
Well, that's what, and like,
The 10-year bond.
like I was telling you earlier, Greg, I don't know how we bonded out $400,000 if the revenue for the capital account was 322 without raising the taxes. It bothers me. I'm gonna be honest.
Because we were moving the 153,000 from 123 to 134, and you take the one,
It resulted
53.
from a combination of moving the accounts.
but if you don't budget 153 in the operating and maintenance budget this year,
Which we
in the
did.
BB&T, then you're gonna have a deficit in the 134.
We already approved that to move it over, so you're good there, which is what's down here at the bottom, the transfer in.
Yeah.
But that still puts you way off. I'll take recommendations on how we zero this one out. I mean, it sounds like our hand-tied expenses to bond purchases outweigh our revenues coming in.
The load money coming in got you almost 400,000, a little bit over 400,000. That's, I think that's how.
Not here, 80,000 in this account.
Yeah, no, well, I said 80 plus the 322 got you over 400,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The grand total would have been over
Correct.
40.
Yeah.
But also due to just natural increase in millage, you got 36,000 right there.
Correct.
So you gotta, you do get 36 increase on that.
All right, so let me see if I understand where we are. What you're saying is that the budget request and our budget experience is beyond the millage that's dedicated to that source permanently and irrevocably. Okay, you know, I think there's some value, Mr. Chairman, in having a closer proximity to the revenue source and the expenditures for purposes of transparency. You know, just saying that, well, we're not gonna have everything running behind and funded all out of the general fund. That if we're chronically running behind, we need to make that adjustment, but we don't necessarily need to make it a net adjustment overall. We need to transfer some other millage into that account to have it fully funded.
I would concur with that statement.
That's why I was worried about moving money, because I don't think what set amount of money is put there for the millage, for the bill approved. I think we have to make sure we got the money going to the correct place and allocated in the correct budget.
Well, I'm gonna, I know Jeff just asked, but I want to ask my knowledge as well. What is the debt principal and debt interest that's in this line right here, Ms. Kirk?
That is the lease payment for the
The 10 fire trucks.
the $3.5 million.
But what about the capital outlay 360, Greg, that you had budgeted in FY '21? I mean, the fire bond projects?
That was a request to take, from reserves, that amount of money to pay for the rest of the fire building project.
But why are we budgeting another 350,000 in FY 22?
I didn't put that in that line. I don't
Okay,
know.
do you need that? Because that'll fix a lot of problems. That'll fix a few right quick.
Because I don't know why we would do $360,000 in firewall projects in 21 and do another
I did not put
350,000 in
350 in that. I don't know.
Okay, that is a request, so really, we need to be looking on this right hand column. Is that what you're telling me? You want 100, you want 40? 100.
I couldn't make that
Or
work.
is that a carryover, Lisa? 360.
Oh, it will be, whatever they don't spend.
So we're looking better, but we're still with this. And we're still 222 or 221 over.
Now, the transfer in should be a credit, not an expense.
That's why it's like that. So this is our fund. So that's projected. The bottom line doesn't count. So really, what we need to do is but it's not, it's going off of.
Different bottom line.
Yeah, different bottom line. Line 47 on that spreadsheet, it's not accurate. So 221, 427. 27 minus the 153 is being transferred over. So we're at 68,000.
There you go.
That's a lot better. In the red. 68, 427. So we wanted to. The Greg, you're telling us you need those building repairs at 100,000.
And I like to see something like a long range plan on either, listing of the, projects, but you need to have it for, you talking about the slab, need to be 10 inches or 10 feet.
Well,
Yeah.
the concrete's gotta be 6 inches thick with
Okay.
reinforced
Yeah,
rebar.
but I think you need to have
Well, and
listing
some
of
of
projects.
these, like right now, we have a pad behind the Wattsville station that's has sunk 4 inches. We've got mud coming up and water. That didn't show itself a year ago. That started cracking and in the last.
I understand that, but-
It's dropping. Same way at Waterloo and same way at Sandy Springs. So those things just,
Just happen, I think.
we don't,
Are you expecting to sell any assets this year? Any trucks, anything?
no, how can we say?
So what you're asking him is $100,000 over how many stations? I mean, you can drop $20,000 on the roof of your house tomorrow. I mean, $100,000 for all of the property we've got out there does not sound like a lot to me.
I agree too, that's why I said I need to have.
And I don't have a list, I didn't have a list, to come up with that number, I'm putting that based on what I know as of right now that's coming up, and that's gonna take half of that. And that's not including anything that rears its head, the next heavy rain or,
Why are you working on that 55?
now we do have the $80,000 that we budgeted this
Yes, that'll make,
year.
I was getting ready
For radios that we're not having to spend, so, if council would want to carry that over, that
It
would
does
help.
carry over. That's the thing,
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
carries over. So
So,
I think that number, when that number's added back in, that you don't spend this year, you're gonna be in the black, so we're gonna be good.
The building
So-
repairs, we budgeted for 21 was 22, we didn't spend any of that.
Yes.
21.
The year's still going.
Well, I know we got 4 months.
Yeah, you got anything you're supposed to be turning into that line item?
For the 360.
No,
Yeah, for the 22,000.
line 15,702. We put 22,000 in last year.
No, we have not.
They
We have
take
not.
care of one of those pads behind Wattsville, so.
Mhm.
So
What if we slim the budget request for 22 to 80? just because we haven't spent anything. I'm not saying.
I bet you now, that'll be spent for this year though.
Yeah. Probably.
Since you mentioned it, I think Greg will
I'm
for
sure,
sure.
but
I'm comfortable with 100. Actually, Greg, I'm gonna make the motion that we approve Fund 134 with the expenditures of 100,000, line item 15,702, 40,000, line item 74,444, security cameras, and then the debt principal and the debt interest that's set 318,253 and 85,174. And that is in form of a motion from myself. Do I have a
Sandy, is that
second?
right? Did he make the motion himself, or does he need to ask for it?
No, you can have,
Is he a member of council?
he got as many votes as you got.
There's a motion on the floor.
Look for a second.
I'm looking for a second. Second by Mr. Carroll. Is there any further discussion?
I'm trying to figure out which one.
One. You get the finish.
This is the project that started in Waterloo. I'm just trying to make sure that gets done.
the Waterloo Fire Station remodel,
Yeah, I see it. You got-
we're almost completed with
Almost
that.
complete, you got 37,000, okay.
There's no further discussion or questions?
And we did pull that $350,000
Yes,
request.
that's not, it only includes the 100 in building repairs, 40 in security cameras and the debt and on the principal and the interest.
Because you do have this 350 somewhere else in the budget. Already down
Wait,
below.
so that was,
350 was not supposed to be
In here
in
at all.
their expense, because it's already in
I got
FY
fire
2021.
bond project.
They'll just carry it.
the capital project to carry over, but we've not rebudgeted anymore for it. With the 360 we already budgeted is the top line.
Okay.
All right, I'll call for a vote to approve the 130 capital, 134 budget. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining. Motion carries 6-0-1. Ms. Anderson and abstention. Greg, we appreciate you. We appreciate all you, your firemen, all our volunteer firemen. Please express our thanks to all of them, and we look forward to another great year. I appreciate your frugalness.
And I appreciate council, I appreciate y'all's support. We've got a great fire service, we just have to keep trying to improve. And I'm trying to make what I can go as far as we can make it. And support the volunteers as much as we can.
I realize you do a good job now. Don't get hard on the call. Go out of here, okay, all right? And it's all good.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Greg. All right, we're gonna take a 7-minute recess. If anybody needs to use the facilities or grab a bottle of water, we'll start back at 7:05. Thank you. All right. Is 7:12. I'll call this meeting back to order. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We're going to begin addressing Fund 128, the EMS fund. EMS, I'll just remind everybody, is a standalone fund like fire is. Their millage is 7.32 for their regular fund account and 2 mils for their capital. That's what we're about to dive into. We will address, that's what we've been discussing here. The millage, that 950 is a random number that came in there. The millage coming from the auditor's office is 182 a mil, so that would put that number at 1,332,240. So please make that adjustment on that sheet as we're looking through this, and we'll keep, if we need tally numbers, we'll use them off the board. So we'll use Ms. Kirk's numbers, they're probably more accurate than mine. Right here. All right, well, we will, Kelly, anything, you want to start us off? Anything you want to say? You want to give us a report on status of EMS lately?
It's doing pretty well right now. I think we're doing all right. We were pretty well on staff. We got a few applications coming in lately. So good stuff us out.
Tell us, recently we did the partnership with Prism for the two ambulance. Talk to us about how that's
20 days today, doing great. Doing real good. They're not actually hitting the numbers, their target goal yet for 6 calls per truck yet. I think one day out of the 20 they did, and we're averaging about 4 calls a day each truck. Definitely helping out in the upper area big time. Response times have decreased.
Fantastic.
And it's brought the call volume down for the paramedic for each truck, which is helping morale with that crew. So
Good. Station wise, they're comfortable. We get there, get them accommodated.
don't they love it?
Good. Well, Kevin, I know you kind of came into this in the middle of this budget, looking here. On the revenue side, everything looked good to you, especially on the charge for services. We're going to rely heavily on you to tell us that's accurate.
Yeah, I believe so. Everything's looking good right now on that end.
Okay.
I really won't know until I get my dive in real deep and
Okay.
get this year over with.
All right. Just for everybody's reference on the total emergent revenues, the third line from the bottom, or we'll use bottom line to make it easier. Total revenues jumped to $4,002,000 and $2,240. 400,240. Right here.
Okay. There it is.
All right, Kevin, I know we've talked, said on several things, the new hire positions, all that, we're only addressing O&M right now. We're gonna come back and address all personnel.
Okay.
Active comp stuff. So, and 2, I know your predecessor probably put these numbers in, so when we get to that point,
Right.
we'll take your request on positions.
Okay.
Like I said, once we get there. Advanced drug testing, looks like that's 1,500. Is that enough? Past 3 years, I've been a little over that.
I say it would be. I think it's fine. Casey's taking lead on drug testing now, trying to get a contract with the local place.
Okay, so you think that number,
I think so.
the expense will come down? Okay. All right, no billing, we did a deal this year with billing, so we'll take that number as accurate. Moving over to the meat and potatoes. Is there any, before I dive into it, any line you saw you felt needed adjustment?
There's 3 that we do.
All right, let's go. Second.
Jump straight to them.
Yep.
Line item, technology and license.
All right, 52,060.
That is it. Go from 20,000 to 30,000. That's an increase due to the fees for mobile cat.
Okay,
That's an annual increase.
okay, 30 is enough though?
Yes, 30,
Okay,
yes.
okay. That's what we have budgeted here.
Correct.
All right, what's your next?
Second one will be 53,010 for cell phones.
Okay,
That'll be an increase for the mobile cat. Not mobile cat, excuse me, for cradle points for a Wi-Fi for all the trucks for the mobile cat.
okay.
That's a monthly
New service.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one is 61,035. That's the radios, fees. for the capital community sales tax.
All right, and then do we get those accurately put in there?
Yes, from Joey.
All right,
So it remained 20,000.
yes. Yeah, it was 15 last year, it increased to 20 this year.
Correct.
But it made it in this class. All right,
And that's the only three I have.
so the only line I saw in here that seems that we might want to take a look at is the vehicle maintenance. Past 3 years, you were at 144, 132, 144 again. You see, we need to consider,
Yeah, that's always a
I
tough.
know we've also purchased a few new trucks, so that should
That's
address that issue. And you're projected right now to be at 117, so we,
Well, unfortunately, Billy's not here today. We had an incident occur today with one of our new trucks. Somebody decided to pour death fluid into the diesel tank and run it till it cut off. So that's a very expensive fix. Yeah, we're taking care of that with Billy, right?
Okay.
So it's gonna bring that way on up,
all right,
unfortunately.
all right, we will. So you're saying we need more 120, or you comfortable with 120?
I think it'll be okay, because, well, it'd be nice to have it higher, because we've passed, 3 years, it has busted budget pretty good. Yes.
Any council member desire to change that line item 43090?
If he's moderately comfortable that it might be there, it's okay, because if it's more, it is. I mean, if it is, it is. You,
I think we're okay.
okay,
I think going forward, I think we can get a hold to it.
Okay, well, we will ride with it like it is.
Since it's in this year, you might can get it out of whatever it's gonna be this year.
Sure. All right, same time, all the line items are parallel to last year.
The only one I'm worried about is the medical supplies. It's close every year, it's like we went over it. We're budgeted 200. But you see in the last 2 years, it's been 206 and 237. We're projected to go.
But
this year.
with us partnering with Prisma, do you not expect that to go down a little bit?
Maybe a little bit, not much, but a little bit. Because we're actually giving them supplies that they.
Oh, are we?
Okay, that was one of the deals that we addressed with them.
Okay.
I make a motion, we increase it to 220.
All right, we have a motion to increase line 61,600 to 220. Second by Mr. McDaniel. Is there any other discussion on that line item? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of increasing 61,600 to $220,000, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right. All right. That puts your expenses with that. All right, talked about non-emergent. How's that been going lately? Are we still running non-emergent trucks?
We are, but it's decreased a lot with COVID. We were doing dialysis and we lost a couple of dialysis patients due to passing away, and we weren't letting in the facilities to recruit some more. So we've been doing this discharge straight out of prison this year. So it's dropped off pretty good bit.
But not necessarily going to repeat that way next year, right? Unlikely to repeat.
But they're letting some facilities now, so we're gonna try to do some recruiting, try to get patients and help out.
Are we utilizing those employees in emergency trucks?
Yes.
Okay,
They're back doing 911.
okay. All right.
But, well, I got a
Sure.
question on the request. It's showing there $700,000 cost to drag to keep it open.
Where are we? That's the total. That's the total budget. He's got not emergent added in,
You've got,
yeah.
it's not its own,
So you got subtotal emergency.
it's not its own fund.
Correct. It's not its own fund. It's adding the 4.073 to the 57,000. And we need to be in the far right hand column, left hand column.
So where's the revenue projected to come off of it if the expenses are projected to be at 57,000?
There in the top. 75,000 is what it's projected at. Right here. Non-emergency, this is the very top.
Oh, okay.
It's on the front page. The second from last. You got emergent revenues and the non-emergent revenues. Do you believe that 75,000 is correct, Kevin?
Close, yes.
I mean, 2020 was 147,
Had a good year.
and then we had COVID, which I understand why that's down, it's obvious. So if we pick back up to 75 in 2022,
That's a reasonable number.
I would be down as reasonable.
I think the reason we budgeted in FY 21 for 180,000 is we had a couple dialysis patients, correct?
Correct.
And I know what that,
Yes.
but you take those out of the mix and you will not make money. I'm not saying that per se. What I'm saying is that you're just doing discharges and you're competing with Prisma itself takes some of them. And if that's all we're doing and we don't have a contract with anybody and you don't have dialysis patients, it's not a revenue generator.
So when you generate 57,000, that's the expense.
May not. I mean, we've only through 8 months of this year, we've only generated $34,000.
And you're talking, that's a lot, discharge from hospitals, we're gonna get paid in Medicare allowance.
Yeah, so they make $130 a trip.
Right.
What's your opinion on that service line? Because we set it up as a revenue stream to augment the loss from the emergent operations, but
You want mine?
I do.
Actually. We're funding this truck with part-time employees anyway. We're not making any money, I mean, we're not getting any revenue off of it, are we? And it's a burden on us to have to go and have to try to recruit these dialysis patients, and they're not guaranteed tomorrow. Unfortunately,
So what does that do? Leave it open to the private companies and?
but everyone's doing 95% of it. The Thorns, the
We
Midshores, yeah.
we use that as a mechanism for revenue stream, but we're really competing with
Every time
private
we reach,
industry.
if we reach out to like Market Franks, for instance, to try to get a contract with them, then private industry comes in and we kind of,
Sure.
you know. That's how we work with them, keep doing what we do, do what we do best.
You don't have any FTEs. You're filling it with PRN or part-time for that, correct? So no one would, if the service line, we kind of did away with that particular service line, nobody's losing their job.
And we have two dedicated employees that are really working that truck, that'd be like one hour, one truck. So, I mean,
Now, would you move them into, so I'm looking at your salary, part-time salaries for your emergent, and you're way under, and have been historically way under, so with that expense would move up to that
Yes.
line item. Okay. So, all right, how about the equipment? Is that truck able to be used for?
oh, yeah, it's
Okay.
it'd still be 911.
So we're still get, okay.
It's fully loaded, ready to go.
So what are you saying? We taking this line item out or what? We're not gonna recruit that much talent.
What is the will of EMS on that?
I think honestly, I mean, it's a thing to do. To
Make a motion here. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we strike the non-emergent service line from the budget and don't operate it this budget year.
second.
I have a motion from Mr. Carroll, which has been seconded by Mr. Rankin to eliminate all non-emergent line items out of the budget and to discontinue that service.
This isn't gonna drop you, this isn't gonna make you get rid of any employees. is it?
You know, the expense of those employees on the non-emergent part-time salaries would go into the part-time salaries of the emergent, which there's more than plenty there.
Here lately, we've even had to keep that truck running, we have even had to take our medic 5 truck time to time, they have to do discharges at times. They get overwhelmed and have too many calls, and we have to take another truck to help do the discharges. There's just not enough revenue there for it.
All right,
Okay, now what other line item did come out of this?
The-
I got this one.
you got that one. All right, so
Okay, what else?
page 4. Go to page 4.
What we gonna take out of that?
Everything on the right-hand column. The,
Okay, I got here.
the whole thing, X the whole thing.
You're gonna move salaries, et cetera. Yeah.
We're not gonna add back to other,
Okay,
there's no, this,
okay,
I mean, we got 200,000 budgeted and
I got you.
we're not even close this year. In the past year, we haven't touched it, so.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there any other discussion? Just to repeat the motion so everybody's clear, we are eliminating all non-emergent line items, revenue and expenses, and the motion is to discontinue the non-emergent services provided by Lawrence County EMS. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Somebody call, what we gonna do? Those bus, I mean,
You handle the revenue and the expense on a marginal basis whenever you can. I mean,
Right.
That doesn't mean they can't pick those things up. We just won't have it as a budgeted service. Yes.
somebody call this.
Yeah, we got a double BLS truck, so it's on the top.
I got you.
Good. All right, so just knowing that some of these numbers are changing, on page 4, for the subtotal for non-emergent, I'm in the right-hand column. Subtotal non-emergent went to 0. Total expenses went to 4,073,494.
Say it again.
4,040,73,494. So you got this correct. Okay. All right, that leaves us a net deficit this year of 146,254 and leaves us a fund balance, assuming that we expended all this year, which I don't expect to happen, of 652,085. All right. We want to go ahead and take a motion to approve the budget for EMS Fund 128, and then we'll move back.
So move to approve 128.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel. Second by Ms. Anderson. Is there any other discussion? Here none, we'll take a vote to approve Fund 128 EMS Capital as discussed.
It wasn't even-
No, not even.
I'm so sorry. Fund 128 EMS General Operations. I was reading it on my page. So Fund 128 is what we're doing, CMS General Operations. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right, the last page on 601. Which is EMS Capital. All we would these. Is that right?
Yep, that's what I got.
So the tax revenues on this one is 364 instead of the 375.
Or 182 on that.
Yes, that's what we did, right? All right. Talk to us, what I see on here, Kevin, is one new ambulance and a lease purchase payment.
Correct. We have the Zoll financing payment and the Striker financing payment. The first one is due July 1 for the next 3 years for 0 financing. And that total is 134,893.16 for 3 years. And then new ambulance for about 215 for the next 3. we're requesting a new ambulance to not to go over.
What, you don't see any other needs in building repairs? I think we did building maintenance and other. Talk to us about the ambulance. Is that something we've been running? Is that a Ford, Chevy, Dodge? What we
We're
looking
gonna
at?
stick with Ford,
Okay,
because we get that chassis quicker than any other chassis, as far as now and stuff, and talking to Jeff and some other folks. Looking at some different boxes. We gotta get the most we can get for $215,000.
we don't have a truck, we like to retire and swap boxes, or we're not there yet, are we?
No, we're not doing that. It'll be another 2 or 3 years before we can do that.
Okay.
We still got some old trucks we can decommission and just add new to the fleet. We will be able to get that tractor power load included in the price, and like we've done in the past, and like we had to finance those this past year, you know. And we're gonna get that included in the ambulance this time. So we've got some good quotes coming in right now.
That box will be reusable.
Yes. Mounted them several times, remounted several times.
And you know, we approved the dollar figure, but you come present the council that went before you purchased it, correct? Okay.
The mass purchase we did in 20, did we cash flow that or did we lease that? For some reason I thought we.
Yeah, I think we did, we wrote a check on that
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't do,
one, on the big stuff.
we had at least purchased for about 4 years, 3 years.
Well, we did on the Zoll.
Zoll,
It's a Zoll, yeah.
Yeah, that's 0% financing.
The good thing about the Zoll with the striker products that we done, we got a lot of capital equipment with that. We won't need any more for a good little while. And we got quite a few monitors and stretchers and power with the current new trucks that we have.
I was just making sure we weren't missing lease payments on those trucks. We didn't remember if we cash flowed it.
Yeah, yeah, on the trucks we did. All right, well, I'll take a motion. The revenue minus expenses, you're in the, even with the adjustment on the revenue side, we're still in the black. By $9,000. So if there's no other questions, requests, or anything from EMS, I'll entertain a motion to approve Fund 601 for the EMS capital.
Motion to approve Fund 601.
Motion by Mr. Rankin. Second by Mr. McDaniel. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. We appreciate you coming in. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank all your guys. We appreciate all y'all do for us every day. Y'all are frontline guys that are working hard, and we recognize it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. All right, thank you, council. Next on our agenda, I believe, is discuss future meetings. So left, let's see what we have left real quick. We have the sheriff, which will include the detention center, sheriff general fund, animal control we'll do with the sheriff. Is there any other ones we need to do on sheriff? Fund 114, which includes our commissary and such, and 117. That's what, yeah. So my recommendation, if everybody is willing, is a big consistent sheriff. Okay, so big consistent. My recommendation would be that we maybe next Thursday, if everybody was willing to meet next Thursday, the sheriff and all his departments come in and do him at one time. Would that work for everyone?
Thursday evening.
Yes, sir. Anybody have?
Thursday week.
Yes, Thursday week.
Night.
Okay. with you, Anderson? Okay.
If I have an issue, I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. 5:30 for everybody. So we'll do the sheriff and detention center, everything on the sheriff. We'll hit one time. So after, minus that, what we have left is, the Tech and USC Educational Fund 342, which is the 1%. They have submitted requests, for increases. I'd like to at least give them the privilege of presenting to us. After that, the miscellaneous, which includes, public defender, watershed, employee bonds, family court telephone, circuit court telephone, soil conservation, and, MIP. Have that, we have, special appropriations, which includes, Literacy Council, Gleams, Federation of Blind been in there in the past, Maine Society, Lawrence County Museum, Future College has been in there in the past, Lawrence County Disability and Special Needs Board, and Piedmont Aging. That fund, or it's 110 fund, Department 563, and then the Fund 156, FELA Special Projects Fund. That is what's left. What kind of time do you think we would need to address that? Is that something we might could do next Tuesday after council? The agenda next week seems pretty cut and dry. We don't have any long executive session planned. Don't have any executive session planned at the moment, to my knowledge. Really. So we just have a regular meeting with some hopefully general information. I'm willing to try to hit some of this right after that.
The special appropriation.
Yeah, special appropriations includes,
I know what it includes, like I said, just special. That's the only one we're gonna do. Which one? How many are we doing after the meeting?
that's,
Just special appropriation.
how many do you want to do? That's what I'm at. How much time do you think we need for some of these?
Well, to me, it's special appropriation. If you don't have any problem with whatever we already done, you just say,
Well, I think we've had, I know at least one that's asked for an increase, so they'll have to come present their desire for that increase. But I do agree. So the previous ones, if they're requesting it again, I have no problem with it. Personally, I don't think we should, if they're not requesting it, then I won't write a check, but if they ask for it and it's been consistent, I don't have an issue with it. So the schools have asked for an increase as usual. USC is asking for 45,300 over the 20,620 they got. Piedmont Tech is asking for 721,662 over the 185,580 they got. And that's the one, is it 1 mil? What is 1 mil on our county taxes
90/10.
and split 90/10? That's what it is. We can tell them that we're gonna keep doing that and not bring them in, let them talk. It's up to us. I'm comfortable with that. That would save us 45 minutes.
Usually leave it as is,
Um,
and they're gonna get more money because the value of mill's going up.
And they, true, yeah, they will get a little increase. It won't be what they asked for. But if, I have no problem letting them know that that's the consensus of council, and then we'll just vote on that and approve it at the appropriate time, if that's okay with everybody else. If anybody desire to bring them in, let them request them.
I'm sorry, who were we talking about?
Piedmont Tech.
Okay, I got you, I got
USC.
I got it, okay.
Well, if nobody has any complaints, we'll just approve that in the next budget session we have. So that leaves us with special appropriations. And then it's listed as miscellaneous. So it's public defender, watershed, bonds on employees, which that's nothing to debate. Telephone for the family court and circuit court, and then soil water conservation, and then the MIP.
I don't have any problem with that, but I have something that's been on my mind, and I want us to try to look at it when we're looking at the budget. When we come into the salary part, so, do you want me to throw it out here now?
If you want to, I'll tell you my plan for the salaries when we get to that point. We're waiting on the compensation study from the group, and then we're gonna have to sit down and go through every department and address every employee, and then after that, if we're at head counts. But that's gonna take some time, and then when we get it, we can't do anything until we get a compensation study back. But yeah, I want us to take that's why I'm trying to get all this knocked out for the end of the month, so that when we get a compensation study, all we have to deal with is compensation.
But I'm
Go
looking
ahead.
at the insurance subsidy that we pay for the employees, and I want us to address that. And I don't know if we can address it through, the salary increases that
What do
we
you
get.
mean? What are you asking? What are you saying? I'm confused exactly what you're.
The subsidy that we give each employee for their insurance.
We pay a portion of the employee's insurance.
And
Okay.
it was sunsetted in 17. So anybody that's working here prior to 17 gets the insurance.
You're talking about retirees?
No,
Uh-uh. This
I'm
is
talking about all
insurance.
employees from
New hires
2017.
after, what was it, July 1? Lisa?
I just want you all to think about it. You know,
Are you wanting us to increase it, to take it away?
I want to take away.
Okay.
And make sure we be able to, I really don't think we should be paying for people insurance.
I don't know what it is.
Way back years and years and years ago, and I don't know it even take year, there was an ordinance done by council which stated that
No, we did that during a budget year. Because we didn't have any money to give them a raise. In some kind of way, Ernie talked about it and we decided to go ahead on and give them a subsidy to their insurance. And it was just only for those employees that was presently working. So I don't know how many now are presently working, how many gone or whatever, but we still go into another loophole when they do leave, because we still subsidizing their
And
insurance.
that was over and above what our portion is of the health insurance.
Yes, it is.
the way it works is if you got, say, single coverage, then we're gonna take 45, whatever, out of your check because that's the deduction. But as a pay type, you're also gonna get $21 of that back. Yeah, it's a very complicated,
Okay.
I know.
and it's only for the older employees.
Okay. So given that request, would you mind getting us a list together, or would that be an HR to give us that list? Who needs to give us a list of
We
who?
can pull it from payroll.
Okay, if payroll, pull us a list of one, how many and how much, so that we need those
It's
numbers to
actually
address it.
broken out separate.
Yeah, because we don't do it after 2017, we don't do that anymore. It was only for existing employees.
Yeah, we don't, anybody new that comes on board, or even if you retired
Yes,
and come back, you do not get it again.
correct.
But sure, if we can get
It's steady
some,
goes down as the,
gotcha. But yeah, well, I'd be glad for us to, the council can be thinking on that, and this person will get us the actual numbers, so when we discuss it, we'll have the real numbers in front of us, and we can definitely take that into consideration. Thank you for bringing that up. Do you feel, you've definitely done this a lot more than all of us, do you feel comfortable we could hit, these miscellaneous ones will be easy? Do you think we can do miscellaneous and special appropriations Tuesday evening after the council meeting?
I think we can, unless you got somebody who really got a song
I
to pick.
do 2 of those special projects too.
And the FEMA special project, that one's gonna be really,
Okay.
actually, matter of fact, there's none in it right this second. There are a few.
I got one coming.
So, if everybody's okay, we'll do sheriff next Thursday at 5:30. And we'll hit these few little ones, these very minute ones on Tuesday night, at the completion of the council meeting. And at that point, we will be wrapped up with the budget for all O&M. All that'll be left is to address compensation. So that'll be fantastic.
Question, Mr. Chairman, do you want to try to do a second reading on the budget this coming meeting, or would you prefer just to go ahead and move that over to the first meeting in May?
So timing wise for,
We're okay either way. We got that. I'm just thinking if we give Ms. Kirk and I have time to go through the
let's put
detailed list on the budget to get the numbers in there that I think need to be there for second reading.
well, we have the time in the calendar. Let's wait till
Okay.
till
All right.
the subsequent meeting. Does that work for
Lisa,
everybody?
yeah, Lisa, you and I'll schedule time to go through all those numbers and get them plugged in, because that's gonna be published separately as a notice in the paper, so. That's the only thing, I don't need to get too far into May.
All right, well, anybody else on council have anything they want to discuss this evening? If not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Rain, second by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. You know your left. Thank y'all all, as always. I appreciate your